Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of this episode is Footbags, Mules and Wellies. The two humans salute the shoe. so John.
It's about time. It's about time. For a minute there, I thought you were going to do the gloves first, and I was going to be like, "What are you talking about?"
No,
gotta do shoe. Yeah,
this is like the Kennedy honors, or like the Met Gala. You know, we should have celebrities coming in here to salute the shoe.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone talks about the wheel or fire being the most important, but I think you got to put shoe right up there. So.
I think so too.
Anybody who's walked on a gravel road knows how important a shoe is.
Right.
Even a flip-flop. Give me anything. Just give me something.
Yeah, exactly. So tonight we're going to be looking at the shoe. And John, I'm not sure if you've noticed over the past few months or this summer that there's been a lot of big events going on in shoe archaeology.
Really? No, I have not.
Well, you've been very busy.
I've been busy. Yeah. Well, my feed tells me, how it tracks what you're searching for and everything. So who knows?
Right. Well, I'll just bring some up to it because, like I said, in case you missed it. September 18th, 2023, Laura Geggel from Live Science reported that a child's shoe from the 2nd century BC had been found in a mine in Austria. And
really? I was just in Austria. I wish I'd known. I would have gone and visited the mine.
You could have done a remote broadcast for it. The shoe was made of leather, and it was basically a piece of leather with some lace. Back then, I mean, that the idea of shoe is like in quotes, I think.
Yeah. You just try to get something thicker than skin and tie it to you somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's basically a piece of leather, went around the feet, and then they tied it on there with some twine. And
it's really more of a sock if you really want to get down to it.
Yeah, very thick sock. It was found near the remains of a wooden shovel. And what archaeologists think, this may be evidence that children were living and working underground, mining rock salt at that time.
Oh, God. Even back then. Jesus. I thought you were going to say scientists have surmised that the kid was digging something and his shoe slipped off and he couldn't find it.
No, they think he was living down there, or she was living down there. There wasn't any style. You couldn't tell if this was a male or female shoe. But, it just kind of makes it, somehow I find that comforting of like, even, 2,500 years ago or something, like kids' lives still sucked.
Yes.
Even back then.
Get out there, Emily. Get me some rock salt. Dad, go do it.
It just sucks. I'm so tired of digging rock salt.
You like your meat salty, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
It just
salt
sucks.
Doesn't grow on trees.
2,000 years, like kids are still upset about their lives.
You should just be happy Uncle Harry found that vein.
Yeah. Then there was September 29th. So this was about 10 days later. Patrick Smith of NBC News reported that a pair of sandals discovered in a bat cave, a cave full of bats in southern Spain.
Not the Batman cave. If you say bat cave, I'm immediately.
Yeah, I knew that would get your interest.
Which, by the way, a little factoid, I live very close to the original bat cave from the TV show.
Really?
Yes.
Where is it?
It's just up Beechwood. It's walking distance from my house. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one where it would, like the bush would fall down and he'd drive through it or something?
No,
or is
that they shot somewhere else. This was like when you're inside it or when he pulls in. Or whatever.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Can you tour that? Can you go in that? Or
yeah. People go in there all the time. It's a big spot for lovemaking and graffiti.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, next time I'm out there, you'll have to take me up there just for.
All right,
I just want to see it. I don't want any of the other stuff.
Yeah, right. We're gonna bring our spray cans. I'll tell you that much.
Intro to Anthro. They immediately track us. So anyway, but on September 29th, Patrick Smith reported that this pair of shoes, they'd actually found it back in the 1800s. This old pair of sandals in this cave.
Wow.
And they were finally able to date them, and they think that those sandals are 6,200 years old.
Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah.
Those are some old sandals. Those have got to be well made to last that long. It's like the Birkenstocks of yesteryear.
Right. And they think it may be the oldest footwear ever discovered in Europe.
Amazing. Amazing.
What's amazing to me is for physical anthropologists and archaeologists for years have been trying to find like the oldest skull, the oldest human skull. Now we're just happy to find like an old pair of shoes. Everybody just wants to find something important.
Just something. Well, I'm going to guess, and I haven't seen pictures of either of these shoes that you've discussed, but I'm going to guess that there's not a lot of arch support.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to build that up at that time too. Like I said, there's not much design in it. There's not much design.
Yeah. Okay.
And then probably the most exciting shoe news
here we go.
That came out this summer was back in August, and that was Irene Ivanaj of the Greek Reporter reported that archaeologists in South Africa discovered some footprints that showed humans may have been wearing sandals over 100,000 years ago.
Yes, I could have told him that.
I know.
You step on what? You get out there in the river and you're trying to catch a fish. You ever step on a river rock? God damn.
It's awful.
It's the worst. And you make fun of those people wearing those footsie shoes, that fit on the toes and everything, those river shoes. You make fun of them, but man, once you all get out there canoeing, you're like, man, I wish I had some.
You always think you can do it. You're always like, oh, I'm just going to go out into the middle of it's okay, like when you're out there swimming, but you try walking out on the gravel and everything.
Forget it. There's a guy, and I met him here in Los Angeles, who went without shoes. He told me he'd been living here 8 years and had never put on shoes.
Oh.
He was a weird dude, as you can imagine. But I'm just like, in LA? Like, what the hell, dude?
Yeah. Yeah, some people do that. Some people take like real pride in the fact that I don't wear shoes. Man, look how thick the soles of my feet are. It's like, I'm looking at how thick the soles of your feet are. And then Dario Radley of the Archaeology News online magazine confirmed that these footprints were in like 3 different locations in South Africa. And based on the nearby sediments, they think that, these footprints are from 73,000 to 148,000 years.
Wow. Damn. And they were far apart. That's a long walk that guy went on.
Same pair of shoes. And they know, how do they know that they were sandal prints? Is that, there's no toes. There's no toes in these prints. So you could tell they're footprints, but there's no toe prints.
I don't know. What about the guy didn't have a toe? You know?
Just round it off.
I don't know. This is where archaeology, maybe you make an ass out of you and me.
They also say that up until now, probably the oldest pair of shoes were a pair of sandals from Oregon.
What?
That were thought to be about 10,000 years old.
Of course it's from Oregon. People are still wearing the same sandals up there.
I know it hasn't changed much. And then they think Neanderthals. They think Neanderthals seem to have been using some footwear as well.
Really?
That go back maybe 130,000 years.
Whoa.
And Radley says that while archaeologists are cautious about the discovery. This discovery this is a quote, challenges previous notions about the history of footwear.
Yes.
I don't know.
There's a lot of it. A lot of people are releasing a new edition of the history of the shoe,
Yeah. I was trying to think, after I read that, I was trying to think of what my previous notions of footwear were exactly. But you know what? Nothing having to do with footwear would surprise me. But
Yeah.
I think what you were saying too, and what I find interesting is that even prehistoric hominins they weren't just making tools, but they were saying like, "Hey, my feet hurt."
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it was such a good idea to walk upright. We evolved to walking upright. And then what happens? Your feet hurt.
Right.
And
all my weight is on my feet. What are we doing?
It's a metaphor for everything that we've become. We evolve into something that makes life worse, like our big brains. Our big brain, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then suddenly we invent stuff that, imprisons us for life.
It's like
the internet.
Like I wonder if one of them was like, I want to go back. I want to go back to walking on all fours. It was so much easier then.
Everybody made fun of him. Yeah. Keith, we're not going to walk on all fours.
Come on,
that's
get
over. Come on, you Luddite. Get with it.
And so, John, as you can see, this is a very exciting time to be alive and to be living through this, as far as like history of archaeology of footwear goes.
I thought this period was going to be remembered by the pandemic or what, all kinds of. I never thought that this period would be defined by the discovery of ancient footwear.
Right. Wow. This is going to change everything. So just be thankful. Be thankful to be alive. And
it's a good time to be alive. Yes.
Right. As we discussed in our episode about taste, I'm not really into much. Like, I'm not into like stereos or cars or anything, but I am into glasses and I am into shoes.
Yes, you are. And you gave me some advice when I got married. You said, always get married with a new pair of shoes and new underwear.
Right.
And I did it. I did it.
I think, and own your shoes when you get married.
Yes.
Because you don't want all the memories that go into that pair of shoes. You don't want to just take it back and have some kid wearing it at prom the next week.
Yeah. Some guy using that shoe spray that they use at bowling alleys and just renting it on to the next kid. Yeah, I agree.
I remember you said, I think it was maybe last or a couple episodes ago, that you had mentioned that you wear a lot of boots now. But how about tennis shoes? Do you still wear tennis shoes, or do you? I
do when I run. I jog. And I wear them then, but I don't wear tennis shoes a lot, just out and about. I've got, I've got a fancy pair that I'm supposed to wear according to my, the people I live with, my family, that I'm supposed to wear in certain situations. But no, I don't. I wear primarily, I wear boots during the winter and flip-flops during the summer. And that's all you get. That's it.
You've worn flip-flops for a long time, right? I mean, that's always been you.
They're genius. I mean, you can take them off whenever you want. I know people don't like seeing your feet, but I don't give a, I mean, just don't look at them. Please.
Do you ever put socks on with them, or something like a?
No, you can't. These are old-fashioned flip-flops. They're not going to flip or flop if you put socks on. You need to get right in between that toe and that number 2. Yeah. Right in there, and that's why maybe those footprints they found without the toe, maybe maybe it was just a toeless guy. He couldn't get his flips to flop.
I'm that same way. My toes, I reject them. I put on flip-flops. My feet reject them. And I'm like, when I try to walk in them, I'm like, when you put your dog in boots or something and the dog tries to walk with boots, I'm sort of that way. I have a real hard time walking.
You got to work at it. You just got to keep going. Keep going. Push through.
I'll have to drive out to a parking lot by myself sometimes. Just walk around out in the mall before the mall opens. I'll go.
What's
out
that
there.
guy doing out there? It looks like he's trying to learn how to walk on flip-flops.
Look, he's putting cones. He's putting cones out. He's putting cones out to walk around them. So in an article titled "Provocations on Sneakers: The Multiple Significations of Athletic Shoes, Sport, Race, and Masculinity,"
Yeah.
that sounds academic.
Yes, it
Dylan
does.
Miner says shoes have the ability to imbue a sense of self-respect to those who don a good pair.
Yes. Yes. And like everything else, the machine, the corporate
Right.
machine has convinced us that, we've got to, it's not about quality. It's
Right.
there's so
Right.
much now imbued in a shoe.
Yeah.
Imbued in a shoe. That's a good
And
song
I
title.
think if you when you see somebody in like a really nice pair of shoes or like
Yeah.
a really nice pair of sneakers, you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, they know it.
Yes, they do.
They know, or you
Yes.
may not know it, but people who are into shoes know
They
it.
know it.
You know,
Yes, that's
yeah,
exactly right. And when you're overseas and, going by these fancy shoe shops that I've been, you kind of go, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, I get it. I get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But they better be comfortable.
You know what was funny? When I worked for the Italian Tourist Board, we had like like an Italian Supreme Court judge come over one time because they'll
Whoa.
come over and do audits on everything,
Oh,
on
Jesus. A
all the other.
Supreme Court judge. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
the equivalent of it, but it was
Wow.
pretty high up, and so my bosses were all really scared about this guy coming over for months, and so we really worked hard to get the office ready and get everything, all of our files in order and stuff. When the guy got over there, all he wanted to do was go shoe shopping
Yeah.
in Chicago because shoes are so expensive in Italy. He just wanted to go
Yeah.
shoe shopping. He came in and
Oh,
just kind of looked around like, okay, yeah, that looks good.
okay.
Can somebody take me out to like
Well,
the
what
big
kind of
shoe
shoes did he
warehouse?
want? Did he want sneakers? Did he want tennis shoes? Or did he want like leather, like floor shines? What did he want? Wingtips?
Like floor shine, all of them.
Yeah.
A friend of mine that I worked with had to drive him around to a bunch of shoe shops buying shoes.
That's amazing. That's
So,
fantastic.
in her book, Shoes, a celebration of pumps, platforms, sandals, and slippers, boots,
Oh,
mules, sneakers, and more. Everybody has these shoe titles are going crazy. Linda O'Keefe says shoes are a force for change, a means of shedding the past and buying into the future. And then
okay.
she says that shoes not only reflect social history, they are a personal record of our lives, touchstones that evoke a time, a place, an emotion. And as
Mm.
mementos of occasions on which they were worn, shoes preserve the past, triggering memories as vivid as those in a photo album.
Jesus. She's
Yeah.
really into shoes.
Yeah, I
Man.
know, I know.
I mean,
But
yeah. Okay.
I I think
Oh,
it's true though. Like if you, I mean, she's talking about like when you see a pair of shoes that you wore like years ago or something, or when you see
yes.
like a pair of shoes in your closet that you wore at a special occasion, like your wedding we
Yes.
were talking about.
Yep. Yep.
Those shoes trigger a memory in your mind.
That's
It's like those
true.
shoes hold or record emotional memories for you.
It's funny when my mom passed, we decided to put some of her items on a table along with
Yeah,
photos and things like that.
yeah, yeah,
And I put a pair of her shoes up there. It was like on a 8-foot table, just all
hmm,
these different
yeah,
mementos, and my mom, her watch and glasses, and it was
yeah.
so emotional to people to see
Right,
the
right.
mundane things that she wore every day, like her glasses and her shoes,
Yeah,
those kinds of things. Really, it touched me too. I was just like,
yeah,
wow, yeah,
yeah. Like you don't. I mean, you don't consciously think about how important shoes are. I'll give you a story about my mother as well. Is when she had come over to visit me when I was in Europe, we had traveled around a little bit, and one time we were in Paris and we were coming home after dinner one time, and we just happened to stumble. We walked into this little square, in Paris, and they were having a street festival out there.
hmm
And so they were playing, guitar and accordion and violin, and people were dancing in couples. And so my mom and I just kind of looked at each other and we said, let's go dance. We just kind of automatically went out and started dancing with each
Oh,
other. And so we
that's
just
so
danced a
sweet.
few songs and we had a really good time. And it was really fun and it wasn't planned. And then years later, like decades later, I happened to be visiting her in Kansas. Kansas City, and she was showing me something in her bedroom. And then we were getting ready to go back out into the living room, and she stopped me and she picked up this pair of shoes and she goes, "You know what these are?" And I said, "No, I mean, they're just an old pair of shoes, you know." And she goes, "These are the shoes I wore when I danced on the streets in Paris." Isn't that it's so it's like
you
she
touched her. That's so great.
yeah.
Your
And
mom
it
was
was like
great.
she and those shoes had shared something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like decades
Mm-hmm.
later, there was
Mm-hmm.
still magic in those shoes that she had
It's
worn.
funny. I have a pair of Red Wing boots that I've had for like 30 years. Like they're
Yeah.
perfectly broken and I've had them resold a bunch of times. And I'm telling you, when I wear those, people comment on them. Like, "Oh, you're wearing your boots," like
Yeah.
they know those boots. So
Yeah,
funny.
like you're in there. Part of your personality or part of your soul is in those boots, you know.
Fuck yeah. I
Uh
had to break those in. It hurt like hell. God damn, breaking in boots is hard.
The other thing I find interesting about it, like your shoes will go through hell with you. You know what I mean? Like if your car breaks down and you gotta walk through the snow or walk through walk through
Yup.
mud and everything. When you get done, you look like hell and your boots look like hell. You know, more than any other article of clothing you have. Your
You're
your
right.
boots are there with you. You know, you're like, okay, buddy, let's stick together on this one. And last night, after I had written all this, kind of getting ready for this episode, I happened to glance into my closet as I was getting ready to go to bed, and all of my I wear mostly boots, and all of my old boots, were just kind of sitting in there. And, and they're all like the laces were out, the tongues were hanging out. They're kind of beat up, you know, the soles are all scuffed up, the toes. And they look like a bunch of like old boxers or like old football players, just kind of like sitting in there, like, "All right, John, we're there whenever you need us. Whenever you need us, you know."
Do you hang on to your old footwear? Like, do you ever throw them away or you keep them forever?
Not the good boots, not my Red Wings or, you know, the good ones I always hang on. The other ones, like if you buy like a cheap pair of shoes, I'll throw those out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's just, I don't know, there's so much, I don't know, memory in a good pair of boots.
There's certain shoes you just have to have. Like everybody needs a pair of boots. Everybody needs sandals of some sort. And then usually the third category is like a pair of Chuckies. You know, everybody needs.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't have a pair of Chuckies, you're like, well, I haven't had any in a while, and every time I see them in the store, I'm like, God damn, I need a pair of Chuckies.
Right. Remember, I tried to run a lot, and I was like, when we were doing our show years ago, and I was like screwing up my back and everything. And you were the one that said to me, like, "What kind of shoes are you using? Let me take a look at those shoes." And they were just those Chuckies. You know, it was just like running on I might as well have put on the shoe box itself and run around. Probably give me more support. So
yeah. That's why people back then, when people wore Chuckies, they all died in their 40s. You know,
yeah, just terrible knee problems and everything. Have you heard Sting's album, The Last Ship?
I have not.
You listened to that?
No. Once the Police broke up, I was done with Sting.
The Last Ship is a brilliant album that he wrote about his childhood growing. I don't know where he grew up. It was somewhere in the north of England in a shipbuilding town.
Handsome town. That guy is so good looking. Jesus.
I know. But there's a song in that called Dead Man's Boots. And the song is told from the point of view of an old dying father who's worked in the shipyards his whole life. And he's going to give his son his work boots. And the father says it's a great song just about like how important these boots are and what these boots will do for you and what these boots have seen. And the father says, "These dead man's boots know their way down the hill. They could walk there themselves, and they probably will. There's a place for ye there to sink your roots and take a walk down the river in these dead man's boots." And it's just it's such a great song.
I like that.
Yeah, I think
Dead
they tried to
Man's
make that
Boots.
in Dead Man. It's a brilliant album. They tried to make it into a Broadway show, I think, and it
Oh,
didn't
that's
go
right.
very well.
That's the one.
Yeah,
That's the one they
yeah,
tried to do, huh?
yeah,
God, they'll
yeah.
make a Broadway show out of anything now.
I know. Just wait till we get one. Just wait till we get one.
Intro to
I would.
Anthro. My name
Yeah.
is John. I'm human too.
Yeah. Who do you want to play you? Who do you want to play you in them?
Oh God, I don't know. Some young handsome dude.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. How about you? Who you
I don't know.
thinking?
Paul Giamatti. He's kind of hot right now.
Oh,
He's kind of like Paul Giamatti. Can he do it?
yeah, he's big. Can he sing?
Or who's
Probably.
Jason Alexander. They'll probably cast Jason Alexander.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
I'll get I don't know, Jerry Seinfeld. They'll just bring him back. Oh man.
But hopefully they could kind of like spice us up a little bit, kind of give us a little better material. So anyway, and as you've mentioned already, John, because we're bipedal primates, I think our connection to the earth is through our feet, obviously. Those are the 2 points that are always in contact with the
well, it's one of the things that
with
sets us apart from everything else, and
Right.
certainly the other primates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And through, I think our shoes, because those are the medium through which or our connection to the ground. Maybe that's why there's such a personal connection to our shoe. Maybe I'm being trying to be a little more philosophical about it, but it's what attaches us to the earth, I guess. Our shoes.
Yeah, I like that. It's true.
Yeah.
It literally.
And that's why I always say to people, and I know I went years always buying cheap shoes. I always bought really cheap shoes because I didn't care. I wasn't aware of how important they were. And one thing I found out was when it comes to shoes, just like with stereo equipment, you get what you pay for.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I went back. I needed a stereo for my car, and I think I told you about this, but I went to one of those stereo places, and I saw a Blaupunk. And when we were growing up, a Blaupunk was like an amazing. That was like, what? Yeah, that's a Blaupunk. And I said, I want the Blaupunk. And the guy goes, no, you don't. He goes, that's the worst thing. And I said, listen, you put that Blaupunk in my car, man.
Yeah.
And he was right. It's a piece of shit, but I didn't care. Finally had my Blaupunk.
It took forever. Was it sitting over on like a folding table, like a card table over there?
Basically, it was over on the right, next to the Sears one, or whatever. The brand that just says stereo.
Yeah, Radio Shack. It's over in the Radio Shack.
Radio
Shack is being sold there now. And the other thing I found is, I always get really pissed off, like if a shoe breaks. like if a shoelace breaks when I'm putting it on, or if you go to kick it off with your push one foot onto the heel and it just rips off the heel.
Yeah,
it's like
God damn it.
It's like a very personal existential moment when a shoe lets you down.
What's interesting about shoes is, have you ever bought used shoes? You ever worn somebody else's shoes?
Oh, yeah.
It's because it's crazy because it's a whole, it's not, it's so personal. Shoes are so personal.
Right. I got a pair off of eBay one time and I love the shoes. They were really nice. Already broke in, but somebody was like, those are a dead guy's shoes, right? You're wearing a dead guy's shoe. I was wearing the dead man's boots.
You were literally, well, that's fine. You should recycle them. It's fine.
But it is kind of weird when they show up and you take them out and you have no idea. You don't know what the history of this pair of shoes was.
But the way they've been broken in by the previous person is different. Like we're all different. Our gait, our arches, our size of our foot, everything.
Yeah.
It's very personal, like you said.
The other thing I found out about shoes through experience was that you shouldn't have to break in a pair of shoes when you buy a good pair of shoes. You shouldn't have to break in when you first buy them. Yeah.
Jesus,
you should feel. Yeah, go ahead.
They should feel perfect right away. That's not my experience at all.
Well, not perfect, but they shouldn't be painful to you when you first put them on. Is what I found.
God.
And Linda O'Keefe says that when it comes to shoes, practicality and comfort are beside the point. And she says that 88% of all women buy shoes that are one size too small for them.
Oh, because they just wish their feet were smaller?
Right.
Jesus, what have we done? Jesus Christ, that's horrible.
Yeah, and so I know like you get a pair of shoes that you see at the store and you're like, oh God, those shoes look great, and you stick them on and they just don't feel right. They don't feel right. They're uncomfortable at the store, and you're like, well, I'll just go ahead and get them, and then I'll just wear them until they're coming. They should feel at least comfortable when you buy them. A good pair of shoes. A good pair of shoes. It's like what Oprah said. It's like what Oprah says. Oprah says in relationships, people tell you who they really are. You know what I mean? They'll reveal themselves to you who they really are.
Right. And shoes are the same thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
They'll let you know as soon as you put them on.
Yeah. That shoe is going to hurt you. That shoe is going to let you down and hurt you in ways that you don't even know.
I saw a YouTube video on how they carve like Dutch shoes out of a piece of wood. One piece of wood. It's crazy.
Really?
Have you ever worn a pair of those shoes? Those wooden Dutch shoes?
No.
Me neither.
You?
No. But
next time you're in Europe, try to pick up a pair.
I got to try those on. And the other thing I got to try on is Crocs, because everybody in a hospital wears Crocs. There must be something to them. They're all wearing Crocs. Yeah. Are they comfortable? They must be super comfortable, because to wear something that idiotic, it better feel good.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, they're very popular. We should find it. We'll get somebody on here. Well, or if somebody wears Crocs and can like Facebook
explain it to us. Yeah. It better feel like somebody's rubbing your feet constantly all day.
Somebody wearing a latex glove, a really thick latex glove, just massaging your just squeaking in there like a balloon or something. So John, like you've mentioned as well, I think shoes, I would put shoes, usually people consider them to be accessories. I would put them up there with like furs, with everything else that has helped people humans expand out of Africa and inhabit every continent.
Absolutely. It's not clothing, it's equipment.
Right.
Right.
And so, in this episode, I just want to say thank you, shoes. Shoes, this is your life. So sit back and listen to some of the highlights of shoes throughout the millennia.
Oh, it's an ode to shoes.
Yeah. Go ahead, take your shoes off, John. Put them up there so we can see them. So we can say thank you.
I can get mine off. I'll try. Right. I'm kind of sandwiched in here. We had to move me down closer to hotwire me into the Wi-Fi, so I'm kind of jammed under a coffee table here. I'm working.
You need to have the router and the router and your microphone right next to each other.
And a shoehorn, apparently.
So anyway, in her book, Shoes and Illustrated History, Rebecca Shawcross says that the first form of footwear was the sandal, which is obvious. I think it seems like it would be.
Wouldn't the first form be a leaf? Here's my shoe. This is what I'm sporting
look at
today.
That. Nice.
Yeah, it's a Red Wing. It's a suede Red Wing. It's kind of a greenish brown suede. So, it needs new. I need to get it resold, though.
Give it a place of honor. Put it up there.
I love my boots. Love them.
So anyway, the sandal was probably the first. Like you say, maybe it was just bark or something. Just something to tie on your feet to keep them from like walking on sharp rocks or something.
Yeah. Anything.
Yeah. And they didn't have to, I'm assuming they didn't have to look good because nobody was going out anywhere. You had no place to go except just like into the cave.
You're going to go kill the woolly mammoth in that? Come back in here. What?
And Shawcross says, there was a pair of sandals found in a cave in Missouri. I had no idea that these had been found in Missouri back in the 1950s that date back. It was a cave full of sandals and shoes dating back 800 to 8,000 years ago.
A whole cave full of sandals. Was it like a shop? Was it like a shoe shop?
I don't know. It's just for thousands of years, people have been leaving their shoes in there. I don't know why they were doing it. But
How
I
do
wish
you
I
feel
known.
about homes where they tell you to take the shoes off before you go in? What do you think about that?
I'm like, why did you invite me over to make me feel uncomfortable? You know what I mean? You know what?
Well, yeah, I'm sort of the same thing. I'm kind of like I'm like, God damn, what kind of socks do I have on? And
Yeah,
oh man.
yeah. They should let you know. If they invite you over, they should put that at the bottom. Like, by the way, you will be taking off your shoes, so you know not to wear like an old pair of socks.
Yeah,
That's
or
what's
two
awful.
different, a different pair. You got two old pairs together, Oh,
Do you
like
do
your big
that?
toe hanging out of one.
You don't even sort them. You just reach in there and grab two socks.
I sort them, but nobody in my family does. They don't care. None of them care about their socks matching. So they get all mixed up, and I do the laundry, so I don't know what to do when I'm folding the laundry. What do I do?
Yeah.
I try to match them up.
Do you ball your socks when you do the laundry?
I do. Yeah. That's what civilized people do.
Yeah. I every once in a while they'll do like we have to go through security at work, and every once in a while they'll have like a spot check where everybody's got to take their shoes off and everything. And Jesus. I swear to God, it's like I have to think of like, what did I put on? I don't remember. Oh no, maybe I gotta go home sick. Like I turned around like, no.
Then they think you've got a bomb or something. They attack you.
Right.
They'll taser you. No, he just has mixed socks.
Yeah. So most of these old sandals were made by whatever was available. So like out here in the Southwest, you'll see a lot of yucca fiber, like from the yucca plant. And then
yuck. Jesus, that sounds painful as hell. That's the best they could do? I guess that's the best.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Tie a couple of rocks to your feet? That's all there is. There's yucca and rocks. God.
It kind of defeats the purpose. I've never heard of that. If somebody took like a really flat rock and tied that onto your foot.
Yucca, though, it's so fibrous and sharp. Ooh,
yeah.
God, I don't know.
Not to mention, I mean, the amount of work they couldn't have lasted very long. I mean, considering how much wear and tear you put on your feet. But I mean, in addition to like making projectile points and pottery, it's like, oh God, I gotta go make some shoes. It's like everything back then must have been. You had to make everything. What I mean?
2 days work just to get your shoes.
Oh, before I can even go out, I gotta like weave a pair of sandals to put on before you can leave the cave. We should sometime we should try to make sandals. We should try to weave our own shoes.
That's a great idea. Only what's in our backyard. We use only what's in our backyard.
Okay. Yeah.
Sandals.
I think I might have a yucca. out there.
Yeah, there you go.
But we
used to have a game when we were smoking weed that you'd make a pipe, make a smoking implement out of what's ever in the room. I once made a bong out of a Bactine bottle and a Bic pen.
Really?
It worked great. Yeah.
Ooh.
It was a little mentholy. But,
you probably could have just breathed through that Bactine bottle to catch a buzz off of that.
Yeah, you're huffing and you're smoking weed at the same time.
Shawcross also says that there was a pair of shoes made out of leather that were found in a cave in Armenia that go back 3,500 BC.
Jesus. Always in the cave. They're always leaving stuff in the cave. Never, always in a cave.
Yeah.
I guess that's just where they hung out. Armenia.
Well, you get home, you kick off your shoes, and next thing you know, you're extinct. You go extinct, and your shoes are left there in the cave.
I'd love to go to Armenia someday. That would be amazing. Yeah,
right.
That's always been on my list.
Let's work on that. Let's try to do. We'll try to do a live event.
They don't have a lot of comedy clubs out there, I don't think.
They didn't at that. Shawcross says at that point the shoe was made of leather and it was stuffed full of grass to keep the feet warm.
Okay. But wait, I don't understand. So it's like a pillow? You're walking on a leather pillow that's strapped to and the pillow's filled full of grass? Or are you talking about just putting grass between your foot and the sandal?
between your foot and the shoe, because now we're talking about it's like a leather bag that you put your feet in, and then you stuff that foot.
Oh God!
They
I don't like that. I don't like that. That'll poke you. Feet are real sensitive. I mean, you torture people by hitting their feet.
Oh yeah.
Why is that? Why did we evolve into feet that are sensitive? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you have your fat pads on the bottom of the feet, but the rest of the foot is pretty. There's not much between the bone and the outside environment on that.
God, no. And ticklish as hell. What purpose does that serve?
I don't know.
I guess it's so that you'll be aware of what you're stepping on, because you could injure yourself really easily.
Yeah. That's a good idea. What I found interesting is that they've finally created shoes after 7 million years. Like we're finally making shoes, but it took a little longer for socks. At that point, we were still just stuffing grass in our shoes. We should try that sometime. Let's just get some old shoes and stuff grass in there.
Put grass in there? All right, I'll try it.
The ancient Egyptians also wore sandals of straw or leather, and as did the ancient Romans. And the Romans, what was interesting is your shoe had to match your social position.
Oh, really? So this is where it all started. Yeah. So because when you say a Roman or a shoe, I think of a sandal that laces all the way up to the knee.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the one. So they had a couple of different types of shoes the Romans had. The soldiers would wear something called a caliga, which a caliga was like a leather shoe, very robust because they were marching a lot.
Right.
And I saw a photo of a caliga, and they had a bunch of holes punched in it for ventilation to let the feet breathe.
Ooh.
And it kind of looked like an Air Jordan, believe it or not.
Really?
It was kind of a cool looking shoe.
It was kind of a high top with holes, leather high top with holes poked in it.
Yeah. I mean, you would still lace it up, you would still lace it up and everything.
Well, that's how the Romans conquered the world, was by moving around fast. That was all about the roads and the marching, so that they could get around.
Couldn't do that. You couldn't do that in flip flops. You can't invade the entire known world in flip flops.
Listen, I've gotten pretty good with flip flops. I when I built that tree house, I was wearing flip flops a lot of the time. I could walk up a ladder. Hell yeah, man.
Oh.
You'd be surprised what I could do in a pair of flip-flops.
Oh my God. Can you imagine the Roman legions if you heard 100,000? What's that sound? What's that sound?
Jesus, it's the Romans. Flippity floppity, flippity flop when they start running. Flippity floppity, flippity floppity.
It'd just be awful. It'd just be terrifying when you heard it. Flip flop, flip flop, flip flop, flip flop.
It's a flip flopper game. Did you see what they did to the Goths?
Yeah. It's just like flip flop, flip flop, flip flop, flip flop.
Flippity floppity, flippity floppity, flippity floppity.
So the Persians and Indians had something. They carved shoes out of wood, and they were called toe knob sandals.
Toe knob.
And it was just a platform of wood with a knob on top, and that's what you would put between your big toe and the other toe.
Oh man, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
God. You really got a pinch there to hold them on, because that's what people who wear flip flops know. You really gotta keep that toe tight if you're running in flip flops. You gotta.
Yeah.
You know what? Also, by the way, on a flip flop, when that thing when it pulls through the hole and you're like, oh man, it's broke, and the little rubber has maybe cracked, so now that little tong won't stay in there. You know what you get?
Yeah.
You get one of those, those things to hold bread loaves together, those little plastic squares that you take one of those, slide it in under your flip flop, and you're good to go.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's amazing.
I thought maybe you were going to say like you have to go get like a rubber washer or something from a plumber. Like they call a plumber out to your house and
you
say,
just need a loaf of Wonder Bread.
Wow. Did somebody tell you that, or did you figure that out?
I was looking at my flip flop broke. I was in the kitchen. And I was like, "Hey, wait a second."
Yeah.
And I just manufactured it. I just put it right in there.
What'd you do with the bread bag after that? What did you?
Tied a knot in it, like everybody else.
A couple other interesting shoe points. Two brothers, Saint Crispin and Saint Crispianus.
Oh Jesus!
Were the patron saints of shoemakers, and they were they were a couple of shoemakers in like the 3rd century A.D. And the Romans found out that they were Christians, and so they were of course were abused, and they always survived. Like they threw them in the river, they survived. Finally, just cut their heads off.
Oh, they cut their heads off. Jesus Christ!
That took care of it. It's like, all right, that's it.
Being a shoe maker back then must have been a very high value. It must be like somebody who knows IT now, you know?
Right.
It's like, Jesus, I can't get my lace in. Well, you just stick it through this hole here. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. It's the same
thing.
It actually, though, it was called the gentle craft, meaning gentlemen did it because people realized how much skill went into making shoes back there. And
man,
in the Middle Ages, there was a difference between cordwainers, cordwainers, cordwainers who made new shoes, and cobblers who just repaired shoes. Or like just put together old shoes.
Oh, I've got a great cobbler here nearby my house.
Really?
Oh, he's amazing. I can take him my boots and I'll come back in and he'll be like, look here. And he'll show me how he stitched in a piece of leather there. And
really?
He's amazing.
Really?
Oh, great. Armenian, by the way. Armenian.
Is it? All right. I think we forget that there's I think now we just think of all shoemakers being cobblers or called cobblers.
Yeah.
But there was a real distinction back in the Middle Ages between the cordwainers and the cobblers.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense. It's like the people who build the cars versus the mechanics.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
And they called them cordwainers was supposed to come from the town Cordova in Spain, which was there was a really soft goat skin or goat leather that came from Cordova at the time, and that's where we got the term cordwainers.
Yeah. Some soft goat skin. That sounds good.
Yeah, that does sound good.
I never understood crocodile shoes or rattlesnake boots. Those things. Always,
really?
I don't know. When I see them, I'm always like, really? How did you do that? Who figured that out?
Yeah, like a
bunch of rattlesnakes. Yeah.
As far as the measuring foot length, in 1324, King Edward of England said that 3 barleycorns laid end to end were considered 1 inch. 3 barleycorns.
Boom. And there it was.
Yeah. Right. And 36 barleycorns laid end to end were the equivalent of an average man's foot. So Shawcross says that's where we got the foot, was from just this idea of 3 barleycorns being laid together, and then 12 of those became the foot.
I'm trying to imagine what a barleycorn looks like. I've never seen a barleycorn. Have you? What is a barleycorn?
Well, it's about 1/3 of an inch long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Some other interesting shoe types from the Middle Ages. There was something called the poulain, which is this when you see people at the Renaissance Festival and they have the long pointed toe on the end of it.
Yes. What was that all about? That was just fashion, huh?
Just fashion. It was called the poulain, and that long toe apparently was supposed to be suggestive of a man's masculinity.
Of course. It always comes back to the penis. Jesus. Do you remember in the 90s and early 2000s, those long pointed shoes that guys would wear? Like they were leather shoes, but they'd be extra long and pointy. God,
you mean
those
like,
freaked me out.
like these?
They always freaked me out.
Yeah. I always think that at some point, the truth is going to come out. like you maybe.
That's right.
Like if they're successful.
Advertise? Yeah. Don't fake it.
Yeah.
Tell them what's on the table.
Right. Don't set the expectations too high for disappointment,
That's right. That's right.
Come in a pair of hush puppies and everybody leaves satisfied. At least everybody feels like they got more than what they thought they were going to get.
Speaking of hush puppies, those soles that were gum, made out of gum.
Oh.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Those are terrible. God, you'd be at a party and somebody had spilled Coke and just... Oh, it was the worst. Those were terrible.
You'd be at the party and you'd have to go out in the backyard and walk around in the grass for a while, hoping it would get the Coke off it.
I don't know who came up with those gum soles, but terrible. The rest of the hush puppy, a great idea. Great idea. Not those soles.
There was a shoe for women at the time in the Middle Ages and Renaissance time called the chopine. And that they were like little platforms. They were wooden platforms that women would stand on to kind of raise them up above the ground.
Like those Japanese shoes for geisha girl, with the two right-angled, I don't even know how to describe it, but a platform that you walk around on.
But they would be like 6, 7, sometimes 10 inches high. Like,
oh my God!
The more wealthy you were, you would have like a higher platform to walk around. Yeah. Henry VIII wore a type of shoe called the footbag. It was basically just a big wide shoe that would be stuffed with cushioning in there, but it was made to make your feet look really big and wide.
And for somebody who doesn't have to walk anywhere, too.
Right, exactly.
A footbag.
The first shoes with a pronounced heel came about in the late 1500s and early 1600s in Europe. They think they were probably heels were invented in the Middle East, maybe, or some people even say that the Mongols had heels for when they were riding their horses.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
Yeah, and some people even think that Egyptian butchers would wear heels on their shoes to kind of raise them above all the the meat and blood and everything on the floor.
I see. So keep your feet dry.
Right,
exactly.
You
kind of be up with, oh, God. Yeah. That's a lot of butcher blood.
I know.
Jesus.
And then so once the Europeans started wearing it, what they soon found out was with your high heel would get stuck in the mud a lot. So, as you were walking in it.
Right.
And so they can, So
what
they
tell anybody who wears stilettos at a party and it's outdoors knows that.
Yeah. Right. It gets stuck. And so they came up with something. They put a piece of wood. They would attach it to the toe of the shoe to kind of make it like a snowshoe almost for when you were walking in your heels. You wouldn't sink into the mud.
Okay.
But the thing is, they didn't attach it to the heel itself. And so this was called a slap sole. So when you would walk, it would make a slapping sound with your shoes.
Oh my God.
The other one was Louis the 14th was only supposed to be 5'5". The Sun King was only 5'5" tall, which is the same height that I am.
Huh.
And he was known for wearing a lot of high heels. He would wear high heels and large wigs to make himself look taller. And he would usually wear shoes with red heels. That was what he was known for, was red heels. And then also culturally, they say in the late 1600s, what would happen is that there began to be a differentiation between men's shoes and women's shoes. And in men's shoes, because men were outside more, their shoes became more robust with like thicker heels and thicker soles on them, so that they could have the freedom to go outside. Whereas women's shoes at that point, they made them harder for women to walk in their shoes. So it became a way to kind of keep women
control
in
them.
the home.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, hell, they bound women's feet in China, right?
Right.
Jesus,
exactly.
Just to hobble them, basically.
And that was the ideal in China, like you mentioned, was to have a 3-inch foot.
Jesus.
Okay, for women. So you would have to like break the toes and then bind them, and then it was called the lotus foot. And a lotus shoe would usually it would be a triangular shoe to even emphasize how small the foot was on top of that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then we get to, the 1840s, that was the invention of the Oxford shoe, which was popular in Oxford University.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a fad in the 19th century for women to make their own shoes. Which you don't hear about. Just like making your own clothes and making your knitting or something like that.
Oh, Connie, let's see what you've made. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Come on over.
Everybody had to be so crafty back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jesus.
What would you do? You think you could make your own shoes?
No. I'm terrible at that kind of stuff. Are you good at that stuff?
I'm awful. Remember,
I made a pair of pants once.
I made that pair of pants where...
Yes, I remember that.
I only did it because Mary had bet me that, I'd found that pattern for Pioneer pants out in, I think it was in Flagstaff or someplace. And I said, I should make my own pants. And she was like, you're a Gemini. You're going to get bored. You're never going to make your own pants. And I was so mad. My ego got the best of me. I was like, I'm going to make these pants. And sure enough, I hated every minute of it. It was awful.
I remember that. But you finished them, right? Didn't you wear them at a party or something?
To win the bet, I had to wear them out in public. And that's what
we had barbecue.
Yeah, we had that party in LA. And I wore my homemade pants out to win the bet.
I remember they were hideous.
They were awful.
They were awful. Those were terrible pants.
But it was like, I hated hand sewing all that. I can't imagine doing shoes.
And didn't you set the party and you weren't done and you had to really double down to get them done in time or something?
I know.
You were stressed out about it. I remember that. I got to get these pants done.
I stopped going out. I stopped, it took me like 3 months to sew those things by hand. And I would be like, I got to get home. I can't work overtime. I can't go out. I got to work on my pants.
Is McCray coming tonight? Nah, he's got to finish those pants.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It was awful. In 1908, a guy named Marquis M. Converse started the first sports shoe company. And that's where you get the Converse. That was his name, Converse. Marquis M. Converse. And you get the Converse All-Star basketball shoe in 1917. And then you've mentioned it already. In 1921, Charles H. Taylor, or Chuck Taylor, became the first player endorser after he endorsed the Converse All-Stars.
Yes. and they still hold. That's a pretty amazing... the Chucky tennis shoe is a pretty amazing thing. That it's still... all these years, and it's still at the height of fashion. And my daughter wears Chuckies.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dylan Miner in that book, Provocations on Sneakers, talks about, all the way up through the late 1960s, the Converse All-Star held a monopoly on the basketball shoe market.
Wow.
And he or she says that, during the 1980s, even Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were still wearing Converse shoes, basketball shoes.
Yep.
But then in the 1970s, kids in New York started wearing Adidas and Keds. And suddenly this Converse All-Star had competition from people who were just wanted to wear Adidas. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when Converse All-Stars had to reposition themselves as a shoe for non-athletes. So
Wow.
remember, like, I think the Ramones, or I don't know, but like punks. Remember, punks would wear like, or rockers would wear like
Yep.
Converse All-Stars.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
And then Miner says that in 1985 and 1986 represented a watershed years in U.S. sneaker history. In 1985, Nike marketed the Air Jordan,
And
and the
everything
following
changed.
year, yeah, Run DMC then released in 1986 the song "My Adidas." Do you remember that song?
Yes, I do.
And I've been listening to it again, and it's like, I think that's the best song ever written to a
About a
pair of
shoe.
shoes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, you have Blue Suede Shoes, obviously, by Carl
Right.
Perkins.
Yep. Good.
But
Yep.
there's something about My Adidas is just such a love song. And not only that, like my Blue Suede Shoes is kind of like, it's still the guy owning the shoes. My Adidas is like,
The
they're like
shoe owns
partners.
you.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're like
Yeah.
partners. You know what I mean? It's like me and my shoe kick down concrete doors. Me and my shoe, we make a mean team. Me and my Adidas. So I don't know. And Miner says, beginning in 1986, the sneaker world became inextricably changed from one where shoes functioned as a secondary accoutrement to where sports, celebrity, and sneakers were reciprocal signifiers within basketball culture.
Yeah.
So it kind of
And
began in 1985 and 86.
and it's a straight line from that to wearing Kanye's, crazy shoe,
Yeah.
that spiderweb
Yeah.
shoe, whatever that thing's crazy. They look comfy
Right.
though.
we
look
gotta
comfy.
let's save up our money and try to get some. The other thing Miner talks about is this idea of what it means when we say that somebody can't afford, somebody's barefoot, or they can't afford or aren't capable of putting shoes on their feet. And so usually, from a colonial aspect, we always talk about the barefoot native, or the barefoot, or the
Yes.
slaves were barefoot, and it's this idea of like, you take away someone's shoes or make it impossible for someone to wear shoes. That's somehow dehumanizing. Somehow having shoes is an aspect of us being human beings, to be able to put shoes on our feet.
Well, you just have to watch Die Hard, to realize that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he without shoes, he is screwed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that scene.
Shoot out the windows. What? Shoot out the windows.
Yeah. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Don't you ever say that? So finally, John, we'll just finish up. We'll talk about some of the superstitions that are attached to shoes.
Okay.
Shawcross notes that, shoes must never be placed on the table.
Really?
And this is supposed to
When I showed you my boot, I put it up on this table. God damn it.
No,
I didn't know shoes can't go on it. That's just
I thought you knew.
I never knew that. I never knew that. Nobody ever told me about shoes on a table.
It's supposed to cause bad luck, or even that you will never marry. So
those are two different things. Good night, everybody.
There was also a custom in Europe to throw shoes after people who are going on a trip. So you would go after people left on their trip, you would go out there and throw shoes at them.
Jesus, you can really, your shoe is a weapon.
Right. They say that an example, this went all the way up. They say Queen Victoria, when soldiers were going off to fight in the Crimean War, she went out and threw shoes at them.
What the hell is she doing? It's good luck, trust me.
Yeah. She's a queen. Like she knows.
Jesus, she hit me with her foot bag.
In Ireland, you should never wear new shoes at a funeral. So don't remember, keep separate. So, because the idea is that if you wear new shoes at a funeral, they say that pretty soon you'll be wearing them at your own funeral.
Oh, Jesus. The Irish, man.
Yeah. And finally, have you ever heard about the custom of people putting old shoes inside a building, inside a wall? It's called
No.
Concealed Shoes.
What?
And it was supposed to be in an article called Tracing the Footsteps of Ritual Concealed Footwear in America. Jessica Costello says that it was meant to ward off evil spirits. So there was a
Really?
custom up until maybe some people still do it, but you would take an old shoe and when you were building a house, and you would put that old shoe in the wall to keep away evil spirits.
If I ever build a house, I'm going to do that. That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
the shoes the sneakers that the kids tie together and then throw over an electric line?
I know. I was thinking about that. I should have researched that as well. What do you think or do you know what that means?
No. I think it's just kind of fun to get it to stick up there. You know?
Yeah. That's what I think too. But there's all kinds of urban legends about it. Like
right.
That's. And then we've always had what Costello says. We've always had this kind of magical idea about a shoe, and what we talked about at the beginning of this episode, of the magic that's being placed in a shoe. And you think about Cinderella's magic slipper, Hans Christian Andersen's red dancing shoes, Dorothy's ruby red slippers in The Wizard of Oz. And the idea of that this the idea that the shoe was, people would you say, like, I'll walk a mile in your shoes. It's like it's shoes represent our travel through life, our travel through what through our travails and through all of our happiness and everything. The shoes go with us. And so June Swan, who's a shoe historian, has said that worn old shoes were chosen as ritual objects because of their ability to retain the shape, the personality, and the essence of the wearer.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a very personal thing, your shoe.
Right.
Ugh.
Right. And they think that's why it was chosen to be placed inside a wall, is that it had the spirit of the person who had worn it. And so you put the old shoe in there, and that spirit of that person would protect you from the evil spirits.
Huh. That's a lot. That's a big reach. Hey, here's what we do. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, you put the shoe in the...
Yeah.
How is that going to protect? Just trust me.
Why don't you... Those are nice shoes. I was hoping to get them. Why don't you just...
Not anymore. Put it in there. Now give me the plaster.
Put his underwear in there. You put some underwear and some mittens in there.
Anybody can put underwear in a wall.
So anyway, John, I think we've come to the end of our salute to shoes. I hopefully this gives you something to think about tomorrow when you're putting your shoes on again.
It certainly will. And yeah, long live the shoe. Long live the shoe. And
thank you, shoe.
Thank you, shoe. I mean, soon we're all going to be, put into self-induced comas, and then our chips are going to be connected to the internet, and we'll live our lives out, digitally. But I bet we'll still have shoes on our feet.
I hope so, or digital shoes. I don't think we'll be, even in the metaverse. Sure. I think we'll still have shoes in the metaverse.
But I mean, when we're hanging in those warehouses, by the strings, like coma people, will we still have shoes on? I'd like to have my shoes on, I think.
Me too. I think I'm going to have my lawyer draw something up, so when that happens, I'm like, he wants his long underwear on, and he doesn't want to be naked.
But can you imagine being inside the virtual game and your feet are getting kind of tired? You want to take your shoes off in the real world? You won't be able to do it.
That's torture. That's my idea.
That's torture. There you go. Yeah. That's what would happen to me. God damn it.
You'll be in that little bag, like trying to reach down and get your shoes off in that little bag.
God damn it.
Number 1075 is, why is he squirming around?
He's trying to get his shoes off. It's another one who wanted to wear his shoes. Steve, go down there and take his shoes off.
Just go down. He's itchy. Just go down there.
Some robot will come down and take my shoe off.
And scratch the bottom of your foot and then put the shoe back on and go back.
That'd be fantastic. Now I finally see a reason to have robots.
Yeah. Oh. All right, John. Well,
well done.
All right. Well, this is human number 1 saying thank you to everybody for listening.
And human number 2 signing off. Thank you so much. And
thanks,
take good
everybody.
care of those shoes.
Yeah, take care of your shoes. And thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, please tell a friend about it. And be sure to check us out on our Instagram and also our Facebook. I'll put up a bunch of shoe photos this week. Yeah, because there's some crazy shoes out there. Crazy shoes out there. All right, John. I love you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Bye.